All right, so we've talked a bunch about how real-world assets are being turned into digital tokens. But today, we're looking forward. What's actually next for this technology? And, what could it really mean for you?
So let's start with a big question. What if you could own a piece of anything? I'm not just talking about stocks. I mean, what if you could own a fraction of a skyscraper, or a tiny sliver of a famous painting, or even a share in a game-changing patent? Sounds like something out of a movie, right? Well, it's happening.
Because this isn't some far-off future idea. It's here, right now. It's all about tokenization, which is just a fancy way of saying you're converting the rights to an asset into a digital token that lives on a blockchain.
And trust me, this is not just some niche experiment anymore. We are watching this market go from a tiny curiosity to a full-blown mainstream financial force.
Let's put some hard numbers to this. Right now, in 2024, the market for these tokenized real-world assets, or RWAs as you'll hear them called, is sitting at $15.8 billion. But get this, by 2025, that number is projected to leap to $25.4 billion. That's not just growth, that's an explosion. The market is getting ready to seriously take off. But the real story isn't just about the dollar signs, it's about who is getting in on the action. We're seeing major institutional players jumping in. Big real estate firms are tokenizing their properties, and huge asset managers are entering the space. Their involvement brings a massive dose of credibility, it deepens the liquidity, and it pretty much signals that this whole thing is ready for prime time.
So when we talk about tokenizing assets, it's really easy for our minds to just go to real estate, bricks and mortar. But the future here is so much bigger than that. We are talking about a whole new universe of things that are becoming investable.
For example, think about hard assets like commodities, gold, silver, even things like renewable energy credits, all suddenly divisible and tradable in an instant. Or what about something you can't even touch, like intellectual property? All of a sudden, you could own a fraction of the royalties from a hit song or from a super valuable patent.
It's also changing the game for complex finance, like tokenizing private credit and corporate bonds, which opens up markets that were once just for the biggest of the big institutions.
And of course, there's the really fun stuff. It unlocks the entire world of luxury collectibles, making it possible for way more people to have fractional ownership in things like rare art, vintage cars, or fine watches. And this all leads to a really important shift. For decades, diversification just meant a mix of stocks and bonds. Well, the new diversification is a global portfolio of all these different tokenized real-world assets. It's basically a massive upgrade for the digital age. But hey, just owning a digital version of an asset, that's not the whole story. The real magic, the part that unlocks all the power, happens when you connect these tokens to the world of decentralized finance, or DeFi.
This quote right here says it all perfectly. These tokens aren't just sitting in a digital wallet like some receipt you'd stuff in a drawer. No, they are living, breathing, financial tools that you can actually put to work.
So, how does that work? It's actually a pretty simple three-step process. First, the asset gets tokenized. Second, you take that token and use it on a DeFi platform. And third, that platform can then use your token to generate yield or to act as collateral for loans. See? Your asset isn't just sitting there anymore. It's out there working for you, generating value.
And, maybe the most amazing part of this whole DeFi connection, it just smashes down the old barriers. For the first time, basically anyone, anywhere in the world who has an internet connection can get access to these kinds of investment opportunities. That is a huge change from the old walled-off traditional financial system.
Okay, so we've talked about the market, the assets, the technology, but let's bring it all back home. Let's talk about what this actually means for you and why there might be a pretty big advantage for people who get in on this early. So let's get personal. We've covered the what, but now it's time for the why. Why should you, as an investor, be paying attention to this right now? This chart here really paints the picture. Think of it like this. That small bar represents your fractional investment today. You're getting in early. That big bar? That represents the massive wave of institutional money that's expected to pour into this market. When that demand hits, it's going to put upward pressure on asset values. It creates this powerful tide, and the early adopters are the ones who get to ride it. So yeah, the early adopter's edge is pretty clear. You get access to these high-value assets for just a fraction of the cost. You can get your foot in the door before this whole thing goes completely mainstream, and this is a big one, the platforms you need to use to do this are getting more and more user-friendly every single day. So let's wrap this up. When you start to put all these pieces together, you've got the market growth, the new kinds of assets, the incredible power of DeFi, and that early mover advantage, a really clear picture of the future starts to take shape.
The big takeaway here is this. Tokenization is making the entire world of investing more accessible, more liquid, and more global than at any other time in history. It's a fundamental change in how we think about what it means to own something of value.
So here's the final thought. The future of investing is being built right now. It's digital, it's fractional, and it's happening on-chain. So the only real question left is, are you ready to be a part of it?
This series is powered by Web3 Newswire, the premium PR and media visibility platform for blockchain, crypto, and Web3 innovators. If you're building in Web3, visit web3newswire.com to amplify your story.